for Drake Jackson, I really understand the pick in the sense that he's high upside and you have Chris Kasarik. It's a good marriage. He's 21, he's got explosion and length and
Bend.
bend. And you got the guy who can get the most out of him. So in that sense, like, there's a good chance this guy's going to end up being a really good player. So I don't want to say anything too harsh here. I think I got to stay in the A range here because there's a good chance he's going to be a multiple Pro Bowler guy who has a lot of sacks in his career. The thing is, one, he's like every other player the Niners drafted except for one. He's lacks play strength at this point. So he's a bit of a project. He may not play much his rookie year. He might be a rotational. He may take him 2-3 years before he's a starter. Also, they didn't need an edge rusher. You can't have enough. You can't have enough. And if this guy is the truth, then great. But they were 5th in sacks last year. They're 5th in sacks last year and 26th in interceptions. It's also they need starters at 6 spots, at least 3, as much as 6. And unless Alex Mack is coming back, it seemed to me they had an opportunity to trade and maneuver to get a real starting center. And I just want to real quick. I'm going to give Drake Jackson pick an A-. A-. He's a hell of a player, but he doesn't fill a need, and I think they could have gotten their center for the next 10 years. Cam Jurgens went to the Eagles and picked 50. The Niners could have traded up. Here's what Jason Kelsey said about this guy. He said, he's my favorite center prospect of the last 3 to 5 years. I think he can be special. Excited to work with him. Kid offers a seamless transition, the same type of player with exceptional upside. It's hard to explain why I think he's so good. It comes down to how he moves and looks. He bends well, opens his hips, very strong for his size, an incredible athlete for his size on top of that. Just a great temperament, solid workhorse, lunch pail mentality. And then he said, this is my favorite player in the draft. The Eagles have been using me to evaluate some of the centers coming out. Anyway, of all the guys I compare myself to the most, this guy is him. He's so athletic, so fast. Okay, so you get it.
I saw it. I saw the quote. I actually watched it live. I sometimes just paid attention to the Bleacher Report because they had Sherman and Kelsey on. So
it's hard to nitpick the pick. He's gonna be a good player. He's a little bit of a projection. He's not. I don't think he's gonna give the Niners much right away. I think I would have preferred them getting their center, but I'm gonna say this is an A-. A- for Drake Jackson.
Yeah, I really liked the pick. I was on a Niners Nation stream with Kyle Posey, Rob Guerrera, and Akash during the pick, and our entire thing with them going edge rusher was hopefully they go high upside. Because I think if you get a player that's kind of maxed out, you're kind of doing yourself an injustice because Chris Kasarik is maxing out every player that he coaches, and they did exactly that. I thought the value was fantastic, and you talk about them being first or top 5 in sacks. They did lose a guy this offseason who had 6.5 sacks last year, who Drake Jackson actually does remind me of a little bit, and that's Arden Key.
Wow. And you think Drake Jackson could be an interior rusher like that?
I think he can be interior. I think he can be outside. But look at his body. He has a frame to put on another 10, 15 pounds.
True.
He's got incredible bend off the edge. Like incredible bend. And he's really, really long. I've seen the Aldon Smith comparisons. I don't think he's as strong as Aldon Smith was coming out of college, but I think that he's valuable because obviously he's an edge rusher. That's a premium spot. He's amazing value because he was the best player on the board. So from that standpoint, he makes sense. But then more than that, the reason I like it is because I think that bookend next to Bosa has been missing for the last couple of years. And it's been kind of a rotation and this guy and this guy. And they hope they did exactly what you talked about in the last segment, where you're talking about, hey, they got 5 different guys and they hope one of them pans out every year. Now they finally got a guy who's young and he's cost regulated and he's going to be under contract for a little bit. I think from that standpoint, I thought it was a phenomenal pick. I think he's going to be no matter the fact that you did criticize it a little bit, you still gave it an A-. So you still like it too.
Good. He's going to be hella good. I just think it's hilarious to me that the Niners, top 5 in sacks, 26 interceptions, first pick pass rush every time without fail. I mean, it's like you can set your clock to it. I mean, we've been talking about it for years. And this is how they operate. I get it. He's going to be good, but it's funny, man. It's just like doubling down.
Look, I just think the way the board fell, if you look at really their 2 needs, I just think it didn't fall favorably for them. Like offensive linemen, you want to talk about the run of offensive linemen. The first round was just offensive line,
Yeah.
offensive line. It felt like everybody had to take one that a little bit earlier than they had to because 3 went in the top 10. Then all these guys just kept
Cole
going, kept going,
Strange.
kept going. So yeah, you were
Yeah.
just getting out of offensive linemen that you
Yep.
might like in that range because
That's
they
why
all
if
went
you
so
want one,
early.
you kinda gotta trade up and target a guy.
Yeah.
You gotta
And
be
then
aggressive.
and
Yeah.
then if we're gonna talk safety, I don't know how much of a need they viewed it as. In my opinion, I thought there were 6 safeties that had day one starting
Okay.
ability in this draft. They were Kyle Hamilton, Lewis Seen, Daxton Hill, Jalen Petrie, Jaquan Brisker, and Brian Cook. The only one that was available at 61 was Brian Cook, who went pick 62 to the Chiefs. I would take Drake Jackson 10 times out of
I
10
liked a
over
few more
Brian Cook, and
safeties,
I
but we're gonna
love
talk
Brian Cook.
I like a few more safeties than that, but we're gonna get there. But
We're going to
okay.
talk about them, right? We're going to talk about them with the next picks. And then my last Drake Jackson take, I don't know if you want to go there. It's what the effect is on Samson Ebukam. Because I
Yeah,
do
sure.
think he has some
Yeah.
Samson Ebukam qualities too, in the
Mhm.
sense that he's purely a strong side defensive end, which means that he's going to line on the side where the tight end lines up. And he's going to, because that's where he's going to play the run, because he's going to be stronger at the point of attack when he's holding up the tight end rather than against offensive tackles, because he's not a
Right.
270
Yeah.
pound defensive end like Nick Bosa with freakish strength. So I think he's going to replace basically Samsung, who's not a really natural strong side defensive end anyway. But I think with the draft pick of him, the signing of Teray, with Omenahue being there, Jordan Willis, the Niners can save $6.5 million off the cap if Samson Ebukam is not there this year.
Mm.
I don't know if he offers enough value compared to those guys to carry an $8.25 million cap hit this year. I understand he had a strong finish to the season, though I do think just looking at the sack numbers is a little disingenuous. It's like looking at Kerry Hyder's sack numbers from 2020 with Samson Ebukam. The impact, he was easily the 4th most impactful defensive lineman. Bosa and Armstead, obviously, and then Arden Key was much better than him. And I thought there were moments where Jordan Willis also could match up Samson Ebukam's contributions. The first half of the season was obviously brutal for him. I think that because of the value and the cap savings that's offered by not having him on the roster, if Teray has a good camp and if Omenahue has a good camp, Jackson's already going to make it, and Jackson also has a good camp, I don't see any way they would keep him to carry that $8.25 million cap
Here's the
hit.
thing though, with Drake Jackson, here's his scouting report. Jackson lacks play strength, but that's the first 1,
Right.
2, 3, 4, 5 words. So he's not gonna be a starter yet. He's gonna be a rotational rusher. Hold on.
But okay,
Hold on.
go ahead.
With Edukam, like I do think they'd love to cut him and free up that $8 million. But I think his value for them is really he's a good run defender as a
Yeah.
defensive end. He's really a good run defender. And
Yeah.
if you take him out, then the starting D end, I think, once again, is Armstead. I don't think they want to do that. I mean, maybe
I
they do.
think so. So I
Maybe they
think a
do.
guy like Omenahue could be,
Maybe
if you put him
Omenahue.
on the strong side,
Okay.
because
Okay.
they're not putting what they're not like Nick
That's
Bosa where
true.
they're lining
They
him
could
up
do
in
that.
front of the offensive
They
tackle
could
on
do that.
rundowns.
They could do
You
that.
put him on the strong side, he's pretty strong at the point of attack.
They could do that.
I think
They
there's a
could do
few
that.
guys that could be able to do that because you're right.
They
Ebukam
could do
is
that.
terrific
He's
against
very
the run.
good.
He's
Yeah.
really strong at the point of attack. And, they might not even cut him, because he might have a little bit of value because being
That's
a
how the
4-3
Rams
defensive
use
end
him.
isn't even his forte.
You're a
Yeah.
base edge setter. He's really good at that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's not even his really who he was for the
Right.
first few years in the NFL. Like that's
Right.
not his natural game or
No.
wasn't his natural game. The Niners kind of transformed him a little bit. So they could get a late round pick too, because he does have value. He's a good player. There's no doubt about that. He's good on special teams. It's just that that cap hit is hefty for a guy that, in my opinion, is not that much better than the
Something to
guys
watch for.
behind him.
You're definitely right. I just want to say before we move on, people are going to say that Grant said the Niners shouldn't have drafted Drake Jackson, and I did say that, but I also said that he's going to be really good, and I gave the pick an A-. He's going to be hella good, okay? He's going to be hella good. I'm just saying that. Yes, I also think Cam Jurgens is going to be hella good too, and so that's all I wanted to say.
I mean, Philly does offensive linemen really
They
well,
know,
right?
they
That's
know
their
exactly.
thing.
Yes.
That's their thing. I feel like each organization, Daniel Jeremiah talked about this during the draft. Each
Niners do
organization has a
D-line.
thing. Green Bay has a thing
Yep.
for offensive line. Pittsburgh has a thing for wide receivers. Niners thing has never been
D-line.
interior offensive line, right? Because the thing you have to talk about is that oftentimes, even though coaching staffs and personnel staffs come and go, a lot of these scouts remain
Stick
employed
around.
by the
The same scouts
49ers
been here since Falcon, man.
for an extended period of time, which
Yep.
is why you
They're all
see
about the front
constants
seven, man.
between regimes,
Yep.
right? Like that
That's
if
true.
one regime struggles with receivers, it's like an organizational thing. Like
Yep.
Philadelphia, for the life of them, they can't draft and develop
Baltimore.
wide receivers.
Baltimore.
Yeah, same thing.
Baltimore.
So when you look at the Niners,
New
interior
England.
offensive line has not been a forte for them, right? You
Yep.
start with Shiloh Rochelle, you go to Marcus Martin, you go to Joshua Garnett. We'll see with Aaron Banks, but these top, 60, 70 picks in the interior offensive line, when's the last one they've drafted other than Mike Iupati that's been
All right. Yeah, you're right. It was Upati and Davis, and that was 10 years ago. Okay, let's
yeah.
pick up the
But
pace.
Davis is a tackle.
Right. Good point. Leo says, better hope Debo gets hurt at this point because if he plays well, he's going to A-Rod this team for money like Rodgers did after his 2 MVPs.
That's a weird comment.
That's pretty weird comment. I'm not going to hope that Debo gets hurt, but I guess I know what you mean. Josh Norman, run it back. Yeah, what's Josh up to right now? He's just waiting, letting the market come to him. USC players consistently overrated. That's right. Go
Yes,
UCLA.
They are. And I know my man Chris, Mr. Roscoe's. He usually tunes
Wait
in,
a second.
and I always make fun of him with the USC stuff, but I don't think this one is overrated.
No, I think he's gonna be really good. 870 Euro says he's incredibly athletic. Seen him backflip yet? Remember the last edge rusher that was made a name for himself off backflipping? Jason Pierre-Paul. Do you remember that? JPP?
Yes, I do. You know what's funny, Grant? You know who Lance Zierlein compared him to, and he compared him to Eli Harold.
I know I was like, whoa, dude.
No, but I actually see that because right, you're not talking
really
about him having Eli Harold's career, but
Yeah.
you're talking about like positional when he came out, like what are their traits? It's actually pretty similar. Eli Harold now, I think he's more talented because he's more explosive. He bends a bit better, but being just a purely strong side defensive end, I do think.
Yeah, but Lance Zierlein trashed Drake Jackson.
He did. He was hard on him. He was hard on him. He was
really
hard on him.
But again, the Niners are banking on. They're like, okay, so he lacks play strength. All right, well, we have a good D-line coach and we have a good weight training program. Like he'll be fine here, and they're probably right.
Oh, and speaking of which, that backflip, that was one of the scariest videos I've seen because there was a second when he was flipping, I was pretty nervous he wasn't going to make it all the way around on the pool. Did you see it?
No.
It was a tight
When
jump.
I was 9, I did a backflip off the side of the pool and smacked my right here on the side of the pool.
Could have broke your nose?
No, I was only 9. I didn't have that much weight behind it, but I smacked. It was really. Thank
God
I didn't break it because I like my nose. It's a good nose.
Oh, it's good.
My mom's nose. Sorry, Dad. Love you, Dad.